G'day and welcome back to Reality Check. And today I'm introducing you to a good friend of mine, the irrepressible Melinda Leslie, who runs what is probably one of the most intriguing tours in America, the Sedona UFO Tours. For years, she's been using high-tech Generation 3 military night vision goggles to view the night sky near Sedona in Arizona. The counterculture town is a known UFO hotspot, well known for frequent UAP sightings. Melinda's an experiencer, and she makes no secret of her strong belief that the US government has a secret underground military base hidden literally in plain sight near the town of Sedona. We travelled to Sedona to hear her evidence and to see for ourselves her claim that we would view anomalous, unexplained objects moving in the sky. I will freely admit I was super sceptical. I expected to be seeing satellites that were mistaken for UAPs. But what we saw during our time with Melinda was thought-provoking. It really does make me wonder if something covert is actually going on in this beautiful part of the Arizona desert. Late at night, we saw huge glowing orb objects hovering over some mountains, being escorted by what appeared to be military helicopters. A very intriguing sight. Here's Melinda Leslie. Our investigation takes us now to Sedona, Arizona, long considered the spiritual home of the American New Age. It's also a UFO hotspot, and if you believe the locals, they think they've got the answer to crack our mystery. Melinda, why did you get into UFO tours? What got you into it?
Well, my whole interest in this subject started in 1989 on a last-minute fluke of a trip out to Area 51 in Nevada and having amazing sightings, like mind-blowing sightings, including structured craft, meaning like seeing all the hard edges. And I met other researchers out there, and I had 3 back-to-back trips in September and October of '89 out to Area 51, going from Southern California out there. And that started it. That started my interest. I had, like I said, sightings and met researchers out there. One of those researchers had a lecture series in California, and I started, I lived in California at the time, but in LA, and I started to go to that. And so I became very interested in the subject after those sightings.
Why Sedona?
Sedona has always been a hotspot for constant UFO sightings. Even the Native Americans living here going back thousands of years said they had regular contact with the star beings. To them, having sightings is no big deal. Then we have our vortexes. That is kind of the leading theory as to what's drawing the UFOs. The vortex is an increased electromagnetic field spiraling up from the ground.
And it's scientifically measured and detected?
Yes, it has been. For instance, I have a friend who has like a geology company that finds oil and minerals and different, things like that for different companies. And he has scanning equipment. He has brought it here, and he lives in Seattle, Washington. In Seattle, Washington, he gets a baseline reading on his equipment of 40, whatever that might mean. But he says he comes to Sedona and detects an increase in the electromagnetic field that anywhere in Sedona, he gets a baseline reading of 80. And then certain of the vortex locations, or what we call our vortices, those areas, he's gotten a reading as high as 120, and he said it's the highest reading he's ever had on his equipment.
Has he measured Bradshaw Ranch, do you know? I mean, there's talk of a vortex or some kind of portal at Bradshaw Ranch.
Yeah, all of Sedona is a big vortex. Certain areas in Sedona are known for this increased electromagnetic field. Like I said, he's detected that with his equipment. But Bradshaw is known as a portal area where strange things are seen to, not just UFOs, but strange animals and creatures are seen to come and go. It is well known as kind of a paranormal portal.
So let's roll back a bit.
Okay.
Most people watching this will think this is all rubbish.
Yes.
they'll say there's no such thing as portals, there's no such thing as vortices, UFOs are nonsense. What do you say to them?
Well, for instance, the vortex, there's science to back it up. Like I said, my friend who owns this company that finds oil and minerals has detected it repeatedly.
And so there's a huge anomaly.
There's a huge, increased electromagnetic field. And then there's two schools of thought on why that's drawing the UFOs. One is that they're getting some kind of energy from it. I don't think it's strong enough, so I personally am not a big supporter of that theory. But the other theory is that it's like navigation beacons, that these vortices locations are somehow being used for navigation by craft coming and going.
So you take it as read from your experience that the phenomenon is something not of this world?
I have done now, as of my last tour, which people you knew were with me, okay, so that was tour number 1,839. Tonight's tour will be 1,840. I can say unequivocally from all the tours that I've done that sightings here are extremely real. We have had fully structured craft, that's where you see all the hard edges on something, 65 times on my tour.
Do you have photographs of those?
We have some, yeah. A lot of times we're caught up in the moment. You probably know with sightings, you're caught up in the moment. People don't, I've had clients come with video cameras with the intent on filming, get so caught up in the moment that they forget to. And the thing is, you kind of have to film the whole time because you never know when something like that is going to happen. And most people, they're not filming the whole time and they're waiting for something to happen. Well, by the time it happens, it can often be too late. But yes, I do have videos and some photos, yes.
So take me through, piece by piece, take me through each type of sighting that you have.
Oh goodness, well the majority of what we see, granted, are lights at high altitude, but when you can rule out satellites and you get things that stop, turn, change direction.
How do you rule out satellites?
Well, I spend a lot of time in the beginning of my tour covering how to know if it's satellites. And I've learned a lot of information from taking out people who work with satellites for a living. I'm very blessed that a very dear friend of mine owns a satellite company. So I've learned a lot from these individuals. And satellites have certain limited parameters to what they can do. So once you have something make a right angle turn or zigzag or suddenly increase speed and shoot off, these are all things satellites cannot do.
It's not a satellite.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Or fly in formations, another thing satellites. Now, Starlink is a formation, but that has limitations to what it can do. So when you get a small cluster of 5, 6, 7 things flying together and making a turn at the same time, well, that rules out everything else.
Okay, so if something's in geostationary orbit or tracking a known path in orbit, you don't assume that that's something anomalous.
No. I tell my clients, we watch everything to see what it's going to do. If it goes one speed, unchanged from horizon to horizon, okay, then we saw a satellite. But if it does anything else, like turns, zigzags, speeds up, slows down or stops, or flies in a formation, then not a satellite.
So let's go through it. You've talked about a giant structured craft. What shape was that?
Well, we have seen that a total of 65 times on my tour. So I can just give you a quick breakdown of things we've seen. So 9 times we've seen big solid structures, actually 10 times now, because Ross, I'm not even sure I told you this. 5 weeks ago, we had a triangle craft go over us, followed by a military jet. And I told my clients that's the 7th time we've had military jet follow and or chase something we've seen. That's happened 7 times now. But that was the 7th time. And that was a triangle.
You're in no doubt that there's clearly a connection between the two objects. The military jet knew that it was there.
The object, the triangle, came towards us as a large amber light. Amber meaning anything kind of orange or red. It was kind of an orangey red color. So it comes towards us. And as it came towards us, we realized here comes a jet, and the object wasn't going that fast. But the jet comes in really fast, comes up right behind the object, slows down, and parks himself immediately behind it. I mean, like tailgating right behind it. And then as it came over us, we could then see the shape of the object. That was a little bit larger than the jet. And it was a distinct triangle. And the jet was right behind it. Like it looked like it was almost going to touch it. And as it flew, it was coming from the west. As it flew east, Eventually, the object, meaning the triangle, disappeared, leaving the jet flying by itself.
When you say disappeared?
Just completely disappeared. We've seen that many times on my tour. We'll see a structure craft that it'll do, I call it winking out, just winks out, disappears all at once.
So you've described an amber light, a triangle. What other shapes do you see?
Okay, well, we've seen triangle, like I just said, 10 times. We've seen disc, that's your classic flying saucer round with a dome on it. We've seen that on 4 tours. We've had oval shapes. They were like pumpkin seed, like flat ovals. We've seen that on a total of, I think, about 7 tours now. And 2 of those tours were multiple oval objects. One of those nights, I had a big special event I was doing a skywatch for, and it had like 100 people at it. That special event, those people who were present figured that we'd seen at least 7 ovals in under a 15-minute window that night.
How do you know what you're looking at? How do you know, for example, that the oval object wasn't a well-lit helicopter, for example?
No, because helicopters blink. They're required by the FAA, Federal Air Administration, to have strobes on them. All planes and helicopters are required to have this.
And you've got videos showing?
Yes, showing this, yeah. And so single blink is usually commercial or private, single, a very mechanical, consistent blink pattern. If it's a fast double, fast triple, particularly if it's a fast triple, blink, 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 like that, that's usually military aircraft. And military aircraft have a different strobe, so all other planes know it's military and get out of the way. They always have the right of way, even in non-combat situations. So we see things that are clearly military aircraft. Ever since 9/11 Patriot Act, it's very, very common to have military patrolling the skies over cities. And I have taken out a handful of military pilots even on my tour. And they say from Luke Air Force Base, which is the closest place with such aircraft at it, near to here, which is right outside of Phoenix, is an hour and a half away as the crow flies. They say in about 15 minutes at regular patrol speed, they can fly over Sedona. They said if they're in a hurry, they can be here in 5 minutes. So we have constant military jets patrolling this area.
So the important thing is you can tell the difference between a fighter jet, a military helicopter, commercial aviation. You can distinguish that from what you're seeing.
Yes, and when we get that amber light, I've taken out plasma physicists on my tour, physicists and plasma physicists. Lots of physicists, probably 100, but plasma physicists, I would say I've taken out a handful, 3, 4, 5 maybe. This is what they've told me. In the lab, they create a highly charged energy field, so massively charged, that it'll ionize the air around it. That ionization is called electrical plasma. In the lab, when they create that, they kind of know they've got plasma or ionization when they get amber light. They get gold, and more power it goes orange, and more power it goes red. Well, we see that very commonly on my tour. It used to be that we saw it about 2 out of 3 tours. We get amber light 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 times a night. Now with this new activity where we're seeing things come and go from our underground base out here, we are seeing it's very common to have it happen like 20 times a night.
Now you just casually mentioned there the holy grail of our investigation.
Yes.
People talk about an underground base. You say with certainty that there is one.
Well, there is a tremendous amount of evidence. A lot of eyewitness accounts. I've lived here 13 years. I've been coming on and off since the early 80s. I've heard myself at least 20 accounts of people who were out hiking and stopped by guys all in black, Kevlar vests, combat boots on, M16s over their shoulder. So I've known, I have to think about it, but at least 4 people who've been stopped at gunpoint where the guns were drawn.
But this is on public land.
Yes. Yeah, and you could be out hiking. You could hike one of our trails and one of our canyons 100 times and never see these guys. But maybe on 101, you run across these guys. So if they have something going on in that area, they will stop you and turn you around. And sometimes at gunpoint. I've even heard a few stories of people who had confrontations with them and even got a little bit roughed up in the process. I can tell you when you run into these guys, you say, yes, sir, and you walk away. You don't give them a bad time because they will get aggressive.
If there is an underground base, which does my head in, that they would do it so close to a place like Sedona, why would they locate? Why would they locate a military facility, presumably with very, very sensitive, top secret equipment, right next to a major tourist attraction?
Well, first off, I think it was there long before this became a tourist attraction. I think there's evidence that construction was going on this facility back in the 50s before this place was known. It was really in the early 80s that this became a go-to place. It's considered Mecca for New Agers, you know.
So they were there first.
Yeah, so we think they were here first, exactly. Or, well, there were the early settlers here. There was the film industry here from Hollywood making a lot of the famous Westerns here. So all that went on in the area. And so, but it's on one side of a major hill range. The other side of that hill range is Sycamore Canyon, which is 7 miles long, 3 miles wide. And the next closest civilization beyond that is 15 miles away. So you have basically 7 miles by 15 miles of absolutely nothing, surrounded by mountains. I think it's obscurity. I think they probably did it there because it was hidden from everything.
You're pretty sure?
Yes.
You just take it as read that there's an underground base somewhere near Sedona.
I've heard so many accounts of people getting stopped. Some of these have been friends. One gentleman is a client of mine who's been stopped at gunpoint twice. I do not doubt his account at all.
But there's no military base anywhere in that area.
Exactly. It's deep underground. It's hidden.
It's Bureau of Land Management land most
Yeah,
of the time.
on the surface, yes. But down underneath, it's covert black ops military.
And that sounds like crazy stuff.
I know it does, but that's what people have run-ins with, and that's what the evidence shows. As I know you're aware that another TV show did a scan and came up with thousands of feet of a perfectly 50-foot wide tunnel deep underground running under an area that's very famous for paranormal activity, our Bradshaw Ranch.
So how do you find these objects? What do you use? What technology?
On my tours, we use PVS-7 Generation 3 military night vision goggles. They put out infrared and they increase the amount of light you see by roughly 50,000 times. So you get to see, close to like 50,000 times more stars than you could ever see with your naked eye. And the beauty of those, it's allowing us to see stuff that's up high that maybe would be too faint or too dim or too far away to see with your eyes. They don't increase distance, they just increase light. But that's the beauty of them is being able to see these things that are up high. Occasionally, though, we get things very low, including when I said we've seen fully structured craft. That's usually very close and very large.
How often have you seen military jets, planes, or helicopters right next to these objects?
Well, now we've had them follow or chase them. So right behind them, follow or chase them 7 times.
And do you think they're accompanying them, i.e. their US stuff, or do you think they're chasing them because they're not US stuff?
In that case, I would say chasing or checking them out. My clients comment that it looks like they're getting pulled over by the police. The police are right on your tail. And who knows? It's like maybe they're saying you're flying too close to the city. You're not supposed to be here. Who knows? But on my tours with this late night activity we're having of these large amber lights, again, the plasma field, something is bleeding such a huge energy, it's ionizing the air around it. Now, along with our seeing those, one of those nights, one of those amber lights flew over us, and that was when we had a triangle. 2 other researcher friends of mine, I know you're talking to, Jeremiah and Alexandra, were out at Bradshaw Ranch and had a big triangle right over them that we, on my tour, were 5 miles away. 5 miles away, we saw a giant amber light over that area and then disappear. They were right under it. They were out at Bradshaw that night and said it was a triangle, and then it shot straight up.
You mentioned Sycamore Canyon,
yes,
which is in the quaintly named Secret Mountain.
Yes.
I mean, if this is a secret, it's a pretty stupid secret to call it Secret.
I'll one-up you on that. So yes, there's Sycamore Canyon. There's the Secret Mountain Wilderness Range. Beyond that is Secret Canyon, and beyond both of those is another canyon called, no joke, Government Canyon.
You're kidding.
No, you can look it on Google Earth. It's Government Canyon and Secret Canyon.
And do you know
that's
anything about...
Ross, that's what you call hiding in plain sight.
Absolutely. Do you know anything about the claims that there are early military maps that show this particular area as being a military base?
All I know is that there are some early maps showing it to be restricted airspace in a big, like perfect triangle. If you think of the mountain range that we're seeing stuff come over right now, being the end of that triangle, one edge, then it goes back like this beyond that. And so I do know of area, in fact, I believe I might have one that someone once gave me showing restricted airspace. It's no longer officially restricted airspace.
But the interesting thing is, even though there's no base there, there's meant to be nothing there. It's meant to be wilderness.
Yes.
Officially. It's government Bureau of Land Management land.
Well, it's a little interesting that there is nothing there. It's beautiful red rock country. It looks like Sedona, but there's nothing there. And you think, why wouldn't they have expanded or done something? It's the fact that there is absolutely nothing there, I find a little bit suspicious in itself.
In some of your videos, you use the term power up. What does that mean?
Power up means it suddenly gets a lot brighter. We don't actually know that it's powering up. What we just call it a power up because suddenly the light we're seeing gets a lot brighter.
It pulses.
Well, yeah, it just gets suddenly
is that the plasma
significantly
flow
brighter.
that you think your physicist friends think is what's linked?
Yes, yeah, because then with the naked eye, if you lower the night vision right away, you can only see green in the night vision. Everything you see is shaded green. But when you lower the night vision, you get that amber light, which means gold, orange, or red.
So what I'm interested in is you've realized that using night vision goggles, image light intensifying goggles, you can see things that probably people wouldn't see with the naked eye.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, about a third of what we see each night, you can see with your own eyes. And certainly, when something powers up, because you cannot see color in the goggles, I tell my clients, if something starts to do what we call power up, just meaning it gets brighter, to immediately lower your goggles, and then you'll see with your own eyes the color.
And what color is it normally?
The amber light, gold, orange, or red. Now, occasionally, we have gotten blue or green. Those same plasma physicists tell me in the lab, after you get like gold, orange, and then red with more power, eventually with enough power, it's like 30 to 50 times more, you get shades of blue, because it shifts to a different frequency of blue. And then after the blue, that much more power, like 50 times more power again, you get green, another frequency of plasma.
How many times on your tours have you and your group detected anomalous objects?
I guarantee sightings your money back. We see them every time. It's just a slow night would be 20 and a high night would be 100. I mean, we're getting a tremendous amount of sightings.
Where does Secret Mountain fit into this? Because you see stuff everywhere, I understand. What's happening with that Secret Mountain area in what is meant to be empty wilderness area that you're starting to see?
Started last September. I had a tour run a little bit later. One of my clients was looking with the night vision and started to see when normally the activity would taper off later. It's angle of sunlight illuminating things. The same reason you see satellites is why we see the most amount of these also in the first hour after sunset. Then it tapers off. We were well beyond the 2 hours. And then all of a sudden, two things happened. My client, we were just sitting around talking, happened to look with his night vision towards the hills. And he said, Melinda, there's a lot of military aircraft. By that point in the tour, he was well versed in seeing military jets and helicopters. And he said, Melinda, there's a lot of military. Is this normal? So I took my goggles and looked up, and I went, oh no, this is not normal. I've never seen this. And then we noticed the objects coming in, appearing in the sky, and going behind the hills.
Anomalous objects.
And then anomalous objects.
What were they, orbs?
They amber lights.
And what happened?
And then they were coming up from behind the hills and going up. And he said, have you ever seen this before? And I went, oh, heck no.
Tell me where you're seeing this.
Okay. Secret Mountain, wilderness area, or Secret Mountain, and that's a layer of mountains. It's like mountain ranges. And then Bear Mountain, which is a part of that kind of in front of it, behind what is called Coxcomb Formation, like the comb on a rooster, the rooster's head, Kasner Mountain, which is a big mesa, and Black Mountain. So we're seeing it behind those. Well, what's behind all that is Sycamore Canyon and Secret Canyon as well.
Okay. I have to speak for probably 99% of the people watching this, and Most people watching this are going to say, look, it's utterly implausible that there would be a deep military base dug into a hillside right next to a tourist town, where they know somebody like you has got military night intensifying binoculars.
It's in a big canyon on the other side of mountains. Area 51, which is well known, is right next to Las Vegas. When you look at that in an aerial map, it's Vegas, outside surrounding area, and then a hill range, and then Area 51.
So
as the crow flies, it's only a couple miles away.
So do you get any military or intelligence people coming along on your tours?
Yes, I've had lots of military and intelligence people come on my tours.
And what do they say when they
Now,
see
usually they're just clients who happen to say why they're out with me, at least the appearance is, and I have no reason to think otherwise, that they're just clients who are saying, by the way, I thought I should disclose, I'm with the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, I'm with the DOD, Department of Defense, I'm with the military, I'm an astronomer, an astrophysicist, a plasma physicist, these kinds of things.
And what do they say when they see what you're showing them?
They say it's highly anomalous, and I pretty much blow their mind, quite frankly.
And so, if you're right, a section of the US military is secretly involved in some way with clearly anomalous phenomena.
Yes, I think there is tremendous evidence, as you're probably finding in your investigation, that there is a reverse engineering program, and that we have developed stuff from crash retrievals and reverse engineered it. And this may be now this base, as crazy as it sounds, is known for having ETs and humans working together at it. Now, I know that sounds so nuts to people, but what if that's going on? Then we might be seeing some ET craft in that mix as well. It's so much that we're seeing. A high-level intelligence friend of mine that I ran this by said, how much you seeing in a peak hour, like when it peaks and the most stuff coming and going from the base? He said, give me a conservative count. I said, conservatively, 50 to 100 things. And he said, Melinda, anything over 30 would be an armada, and we're planning on something. So I now have the question, what are we seeing? I'm not claiming to know absolutely. I know we're seeing objects under intelligent control freely come and go, and we haven't really addressed this much, but a high amount of military aircraft, military helicopters swarming the area at the same time. I mean, like a lot. And so, it's sometimes we'll do a count, and I'll count, and I call it, over the hills. I'm looking over the hill range, and my clients will say, how many military? Sometimes I'm counting up to 20 helicopters hovering over the hills at a time.
When you say the hills, you're referring to that
those mountains, Secret Mountain, Bear Mountain, Kasner Mountain, Black Mountain, over that.
Now, military planes have transponders as much as civilian planes, but they can turn them off. Have you looked on the Flight Aware or any of those apps that allow you to monitor?
No, I have not. It's just been self-evident because we've seen it so much. And we know that they're military because they have that fast triple. And experts like military and intelligence people coming out with me have said repeatedly, those are helicopters. Based upon their flight patterns, are clearly helicopters.
So you've got well over a decade, 13 years of experience seeing these objects in Sedona.
Yes.
Are they the US's machines, or are they someone else's?
Good question. That's my question. I don't know the answer to that, quite frankly. I think what we've seen over the years, and things up in the sky, and the majority of it, and the large structure craft we've seen, are ET, because of the highly anomalous nature to how they fly, how they act. There's a consciousness interaction. That sounds crazy as well, I know, but with the viewer on the ground, there's a consciousness interaction.
Have you had that happen to you?
Absolutely.
What do you mean?
For instance, sometimes I'll get a strong sense that we really need to pay attention or look in a certain area of the sky, and then something happens.
They know you're there?
Apparently, because the other thing we do, that's more obviously knowing we're there, we use laser pointers for pointing stuff out. We flash at them with the lasers. We get these objects to flash back at us. I doubt the military's flashing back at us. Sometimes we'll go 1, 2, 3, and they'll even go 1, 2, 3 back at us.
So how do you know it's not some guy in a helicopter?
Because if you're seeing structured craft and you're lasering it and it's a big disc or a triangle, or we've also seen cylinders, we've seen big boomerang shapes, and the lasers also reflect off of it, so you know you're getting metal. And then these objects, not only will they flash back at us, but then immediately they'll disappear. Or they'll shoot straight up like a bullet. They take off like, pew, straight up like a bullet.
And have you got video of that?
Some, yes, we have some, yes. The easy answer is yes. It's disappointing to me that I don't have more, but we're often caught up in the moment. And when people see me on my tour with the clients, I'm caught up with the clients. It's really hard. But I've had friends come film for me. And so, yes, we have caught some of it.
So you've been seeing an increase in this anomalous activity since September 2023.
Yes.
Can you
a
explain
huge
that?
increase.
Why?
Something going on with the only thing that makes sense because of where we're seeing it is it's related to the base.
So you think there's objects moving in and out of the base that you think is there?
They're coming in over that area and going down behind the hills where the base is known to be, and they're coming up from that area. So I think therefore there's and the amount of military presence it's as the helicopters come in and start swarming. I know the activity is about to get really good based upon more military suddenly coming in. So as more of those helicopters come into the area and start going back and forth over the hills, boom, sure enough, this activity picks up. It's very clear to my clients. There's a direct correlation between the two.
And have you turned hardened skeptics into believers when they come along on your tours?
Many, thankfully, yes.
I understand one of your clients was Jim Semivan, former CIA
That's correct.
executive. What happened to him?
Yeah, he's seen stuff with me. I mean,
he went on to become a member of TTSA, the Stars Academy.
Well, he was already when he came, on my tour. But yes.
Was he impressed with what he saw?
Yes, absolutely.
So you've had quite a lot of high-powered people, haven't you?
I've had quite a few. Yeah.
Very senior intelligence roles.
Yeah, Yeah.
Has anyone ever sidled up to you and said, "Look, this is really inconvenient for us. Would you stop doing this?" Has anybody?
No, never. The people I've had are more like, okay, yeah, like they had it confirmed that their suspicions were real or that their knowledge, if they had any inside knowledge, was confirmed. So this is really
cool. So there are people from the military and intelligence community who want to satisfy themselves that this is going
Absolutely.
on. And you're providing them with the evidence.
Absolutely.
So can we come up with...
As awkward as that seems, but see, I know you know by now how it works. You're read into these deep black programs. And if you're not read in, you're not read in. So even if you're a senior person, like you were number 3 in the CIA, doesn't necessarily mean you're read in on these, as crazy as that sounds. But you either are, it's so compartmentalized, you're either read in or you're not. So people who are not read in, but have heard things through the grapevine, or even know things officially, want to see it for themselves to confirm that knowledge.
Well, Melinda, we'd like to see it for ourselves. Can we come out with you this evening?
Please come. I'm looking very forward to showing you.
This is your secret spot, Melinda.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, night vision goggles, chairs, what else do we need?
Yeah. Everyone's going to grab whatever they need.
I'll get the chairs. So, it's coming up to midnight, and Melinda's told me that for the last few months, especially since September of 2023, she's been seeing increased activity, anomalous objects doing extraordinary things in the skies over Secret Mountain, and often escorted by dozens of military helicopters. So we're hoping we might see some tonight. Okay, Melinda, what are these things?
Well, these are the PVS-7 Generation 3 military night vision goggles. And they allow us to see roughly 50,000 times more light than see with our naked eyes. So we're going to be able to see these objects hopefully 50,000 times better.
So when we go to the top of this hill, what are we looking across at?
Well, we're going to be looking up mostly. And when we look at the night vision, you'll see we're very near the top of the mountain range. So
Secret Mountain.
Yes, that's right. Secret Mountain.
Let's go and try and crack Secret Mountain's secrets.
Yes, absolutely.
Talk me through what's happening at the moment. Where are we sitting and what are we looking across at?
Well, we're in a undisclosed location where we're up on the hills. We're kind of almost up on the Secret Mountain area. So this is all Secret Mountain wilderness here that we're looking at. And
I can see right now,
so we're looking for anything moving. Now,
there's an orb straight ahead of me, just probably
above
probably 4 fingers above the lower of the little mountains there. So what have you been seeing in the last few months over this area out in front of us?
Coming up behind the hills, we'll see large amber lights, powered up, already very bright.
And I have to say I saw those earlier with you
Yes.
when we were with your clients.
That's right, at the other location. So now we're just we're like 5 miles closer and at a much higher altitude. And so we're just looking to see if lights are coming up behind the hills, because right on the other side of this hill we're looking at, or this mountain we're looking at, is both Secret Canyon and Sycamore Canyon, which is where the majority of the base is. So we're right there. It's under these hills and on the other side from where we are. Probably 5-6 miles to our immediately left or to the west is where Bradshaw is.
Now, earlier on, when we were with you with your clients, which was, say, about 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, there were, I think, possibly up to a dozen helicopters.
Yes, and I expect we'll see those coming in here. We're higher up, so it'll be a matter of standing and looking all directions, but I suspect we'll see quite a few of the military helicopters.
I mean, it can't be cheap. I mean, that's a lot of money being spent on choppers.
Yeah, I mean, earlier, even that much earlier at the other location, when I would count how many were over the hills at one time, it was usually about 10 were over the hills at one time, and some nights it's as many as 20 to 25.
I see what you mean too about how you can clearly delineate satellites.
Yes.
Because they're just moving at a constant speed over the sky. The objects we're seeing are, in some cases, changing course.
There's a shooting star, yeah. Changing course, flying in formations. We had a great formation of 3 at the other site that remained in a perfect triangle formation for a long time before they got smaller and dimmer and closer together. Like 2 cars going down the road away from you would get smaller as they move away from you. Well, that showed that they were going up away from us, out of the atmosphere.
Where's Bradshaw Ranch from here, Melinda?
Well, I was saying about 5 miles. It's actually more than that,
So
but
that
it's
way.
to our left, to our west. Yeah, it's direct to the west of us. And
Wouldn't it be great
we're kind of facing due north right now.
Wouldn't it be great if right now a giant black triangle hovered up and
absolutely
zoomed off into infinity?
I would like for nothing better to happen for you to see.
Have you
Ross.
seen that?
Have I seen that? Yeah, I've seen large black triangles 10 times.
Wow, really?
Yeah. As I said earlier today, 6 weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago, we saw a amber light coming towards us from the west. We were at the other location, and in came a military jet behind it.
So there's a chopper in the saddle over there.
Yes.
It's just in that low saddle, just sitting up just above the saddle. It's like it's waiting for something. In fact, there are 2 choppers.
Yes, that's right. There's one right there. Yep. And we'll see more. We'll see a lot more.
So earlier on in the evening, I was with Melinda when she was with some of her clients, and we were in another location, and we saw dozens of military helicopters hovering over Secret Mountain. Now, I'm not jumping to conclusions, but we did see on 2 or 3 occasions large orbs rising from Secret Mountain, pulsing. That's the only way I can describe it, pulsing with a glow. And what do you,
amber to the naked eye, which means plasma.
You call it powering
We
up?
call it powering up because a lot of times they get big and bright right before they're going to disappear. So they get big and bright and disappear.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. They disappeared.
Yeah.
So literally they came up from the mountain, powered up, pulsed,
behind the mountain.
big glowing amber orbs, and then they quietly drifted off, in some cases changing course, and then faded into nothing.
Yeah, and sometimes winked out all at once and sometimes faded out. And then we saw 3 objects in a perfect triangle formation that all headed up and out together in unison, getting smaller and dimmer in unison.
So what are the skeptics going to tell me these things are, Melinda?
Well, a lot of people instantly say satellites without being here to
these
see
can't
it.
possibly be satellites.
To know the difference,
I know what a satellite does.
Yeah, and when you see
Satellites
something
don't change
turn,
course.
yeah, they don't change course. They don't turn. They don't speed up. They don't stop, and they don't fly in formations. Yes, Elon Musk SpaceX Corporation is 20 in a line or more, but in these tight little formations that then dim out all in unison, and et cetera. There's just so many things we're seeing that you could, and going way too fast to be satellites, and speeding up. So it really takes seeing it to understand what you're seeing. And there's nothing on a satellite that can produce a big amber light.
So there's another chopper there.
Yeah.
Okay, so John, I'm interested in what you're seeing here because I'm worried my eyes are deceiving me. I'm seeing objects in some cases rising from below the mountain. They kind of pulse for a while and then they move off. Are you seeing that?
I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing multiples. I'm seeing groups of 5, groups of 7, just coming from behind that mesa and moving off to that direction.
And the other thing I found fascinating, because I was convinced these must be satellites, I was trying to disprove you, Melinda, and then the blooming things change course.
Yes.
Have you seen them changing course as well?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And I've seen the ones that zigzag before.
Yes.
So it's not surprising to me, but it's just like, yeah, they're there.
What are they, John?
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to say, okay, they're plasma, they're ball lightning, they shouldn't be up there that long and moving in the same direction.
But why would military helicopters be there? And I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth, so you tell me, how many military helicopters or how many helicopters have you seen over there tonight?
I've probably seen 7 or 8 altogether.
That's a lot of money on choppers.
Helicopters use JP4 fuel. It's expensive.
Thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars to run per hour. And especially hovering. Hovering just tears those engines up. And so they rarely will want to hover.
And just so I'm clear, Melinda, where we're looking at right here, this is looking towards Secret Mountain.
Well, yeah, this is the Secret Mountain wilderness that we're looking at here, these rock formations. And then there's layers of mountains and formations, but beyond them is Sycamore Canyon.
But where is Luke Air Force Base, which is the closest known base?
Hour and a half as the crow flies. It's outside of Phoenix. Due south, outside of Phoenix.
Which direction? Point to a direction where it would be.
Behind us, basically, if this is due north, it's due south.
So that way is meant to be empty wilderness.
Sycamore Canyon goes back 7 miles. It's about 3 miles wide. And when I do pin drops on Google Earth from like where we are to like a scattering of ranches way out in the wilderness, 15 miles out. So there's 7 miles by 15 miles of absolutely nothing.
Well, if nothing else, there are a lot of helicopters. We can't say they're military, but there are a lot of helicopters hovering at the one time over the one place in the same area that objects are moving anomalously. If nothing else, Melinda, I'm satisfied that I'm seeing a lot of military choppers, or just choppers. Yes. We can't say they're military, but there are choppers hovering and moving with purpose around other objects which are demonstrably anomalous.
Yes. There you go. I think you got it.
They're moving inconsistently with the track of a satellite because they're changing course. In one case I saw, they're zigzagging.
Yes.
On occasion also they come up from behind the mountain there and they power up, they pulse.
Yes, they power up, and And often at the moment that they do that, if you lower the goggles, that's when you see the amber, which according to plasma physicists I've taken on the tour, you're seeing electrical plasma. You're seeing something generate such a huge energy signature, it's ionizing the air around it. So you're seeing ionization of the byproduct of a propulsion system. And then that night when we had one come over us, that when it was immediately over us, it was a triangle.
Do you know, I would love, I don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson or any of the skeptics to come here and try and explain this to me.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of any conceivable explanation for what we're seeing other than there are anomalous objects doing weird things.
And when they're coming up out of Sycamore Canyon and out of Secret Canyon, where people have confrontations with the guards, with guys dressed all in black with Kevlar vests and combat boots and M16s over their shoulder, and sometimes confronted at gunpoint. And some people who've gotten arguments with them have even been roughed up and whatnot. That you go, wait a second, this shows a highly clandestine activity going on in these canyons, and we are seeing these craft come and go above these canyons. I don't know if what we're seeing is ET. I don't know if what we're seeing is all reverse engineered technology, but quoting one deep insider I know who said, Melinda, if you're seeing over 30 things in an hour, and we clearly just saw over 30 in an hour easily, and
Sure.
what you saw earlier on my tour, that he said, if we have that much reverse engineered stuff, it is an armada, and we are planning on something.
Well, I sure hope
Yeah.
we've got this kind of material. I mean, it's kind of sad if it's being kept secret from the rest of humanity, because if it really is the case that the United States military is hiding reverse engineered spacecraft in these mountains,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's a huge story because also it's done, obviously without congressional oversight. And I think Senate and Congress might be very interested in this because...
Well, I think Senate and Congress would be interested in the amount of helicopter fuel being burned.
Yeah,
I mean,
too.
We've probably seen $10,000 or $20,000 worth of helicopter fuel burned tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the last hour, that we had to have had like 20 helicopters over an hour's
Sure.
time. And not to mention the ones we saw earlier in the other location. That, so there was even more then.
Just explain, why do you know that they're helicopters?
Well, when I've had experts come on my tour, I mean, I'm not an aviation expert, but I've
Sure.
had people that are, who are career aviation people, military and intelligence people, and they tell me that what we're seeing, that these, from their flight patterns, that these are helicopters. Now, earlier tonight, or while we were out here, we did have a jet or two go over us that you could tell we're up high
And you
flying
could
like a jet.
distinctly differentiate those from what we're seeing.
Yeah. And so these going back and forth with the triple blink pattern. And it's that triple blink pattern that, again, I've had experts educate me. That means when it goes blink, 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 that is more than likely military. So
I'd
they're
love to
military
see-
helicopters hovering and going back and forth.
So when people come to your tour and see this phenomena, do they go away questioning what they're being told by the authorities?
Absolutely.
I mean, this appears to be showing something that most people don't get to see. I mean, you've got to have these goggles to be able to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're blown away by it. I've taken skeptics galore. I love changing people's minds, when I've taken out those skeptics. And they're going, okay, we're seeing anomalous aircraft under intelligent control freely come and go from our atmosphere. And often in the last number of months, this high level of military interest, where it seems that the military is flying over the area at the same time.
We don't know if it's military,
That's true.
but
We don't know for sure.
Sure as heck, somebody is flying a heck of a lot of helicopters over secret mountains.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct. And at the same time that these craft are coming up, being a big amber light, and again, I've had those experts say that means it's generating a huge amount of energy and ionizing the air around it. Again, I'm not an expert in these things, but thank God I take out people that are.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And please don't forget to click that red subscribe button to ensure you get more of News Nation's unbiased and fact-driven news coverage.